came here in August of 1995, which I guess now will be almost 22 years. And came here as a result of our civil war that began in, I think, probably late 1991. It slowly started in East Croatia and moved its efforts into Bosnia, and especially central Bosnia, wherever I was living at, which was near Sarajevo, Germany. But it felt like once things reached a certain point, they really accelerated. And I'm talking about things happening like a matter of days that you would think happened years.
Well, this is a 20th century act in the 21st century world. And how naive that is, you know, and because we go back through history and we let's look at your home country. The thought was, the image was, well, this can never happen. This is the new era. This is post World War II. Like, this can't happen in the modern world. And as we know now from the recent history, it did happen, and it was very real. And, you know, you experienced that firsthand.
UN and NATO and all these countries that work together now to preserve world peace. We're actually taught this stuff in school. And then, you know, this is developing in front of us, and people really were like, oh no, they're just going to leave us alone. They'll pass through. But it was very apparent, oh, they're not just passing through, they're annihilating complete towns. It was overnight that we went to the grocery store and all the shelves were gone. And, you know, our stores are a little bit different than y'all's, is that we kind of only have, in some towns, only what you need. Yeah. So I remember we're there for 18 months, and I actually never thought that we would get to go, because we have been there for so long that we have become more accustomed to living in a refugee camp than living outside of a camp. All of us were so fortunate, and we felt so blessed that we got to come here. And let me tell you, like, most Bosnian families, like my generation, are college educated. Most of us have good jobs. To say that we did not take advantage of getting to come here is putting it mildly. So we learned the language. We didn't want anything handed to us. Not that anything was, but we didn't even want that to happen. We actually wanted to be put on the same echelons as American kids, academically, you know, whatever, socially. So to say that we wanted to shed the immigrant status is putting it mildly. We cannot wait. I really went through the history of America with the growth of myself, basically. And, you know, because I started out as a Democrat, then I was, you know, liberal, and, you know, then I ended up a conservative, of course. But yeah, and I think, like, it's important for people to know that you can do that. It's okay to change. That's sadly where I see this country headed, is just where mine ended up at. Was we thought everything was fine. We thought our leaders had our best interest in mind. We sure as heck never thought we would wake up and face extermination. And like I tell everybody online, I only have 2 messages for you. Don't ever trust your government, and get as many guns as you can. And then get food. I think this is a really good time for America to wake up and stop the machine that is, like, I mean, they have the engines going, these engines are hot, and they keep spinning these narratives, and they're going to keep doing it until you're brainwashed. And that's how they brainwash people into communism, into socialism. You just keep spinning the message. You just keep spinning it.
And they're trying to turn us against each other. Now, I think about your story, the country you came from, and talk about turning people against each other, right? I mean, what better example can we look at than former Yugoslavia, and the way that people who, you know, when we had a conversation when we first met, we talked about how everybody lived fine. Everybody was happy. There was harmony, you know, and then suddenly there wasn't. So what I'd like to ask you
within a couple of weeks.
Yeah. So how did you get there? How did it get there? What happened? You know,
sometimes I feel like they use racism in the same way, because, you know, what happened to us was a form of racism.
Right.
If you look at, you know, just things back in 90s, our government uses racism, gun control, mass shootings as a way to try to strip us of our freedoms. I know people don't think that's happening, but it is. It really is.
Right.
That's why we keep on having these narratives. I haven't been in America that long, and I'm already bored of the narrative. So I don't know how Americans aren't. So we need to stop acting like the power that they have is not power that they get from us, because that's exactly what it is. The government does not give us rights. These are rights given by God, and our government protects them.
It's no secret, obviously, that we look at the former Yugoslavia under Tito was socialist. It was a socialist country. Now, granted, we know now from history that there was essentially this paper mache tower that was just waiting to collapse. And talking about things that you saw in former Yugoslavia prior to all the violence and horror that happened there, and things we see now in America. And you're starting to see some of those same things, and you're going, oh my gosh, my Americans, now that you're an American, you're saying, my people, please, let's not go down this road, because trust me, it's ugly.
I feel like when they talk about racism, and it is an agenda, it's an agenda to divide and conquer. Because if you really cared about social issues and social justices, we would talk about all of them.
Right.
You wouldn't constantly just emphasize on the ones that divide this country.
What's really frightening me right now is this heated rhetoric that seems to be trying to divide us by race. And you know, especially with some of this stuff that came out of the Antifa movements and the Black Lives Matter movement, they want to teach us that we need to be separate and we need to hate each other, which is the exact opposite of what I would love. But do you see some of that similarity?
Oh yes, I think these narratives are getting more and more extreme. And if you read any of the like Brave New World and 1984, any of those books, but that's exactly what happens. The message, they put out a few points, but it's like, yeah, you're racist, but you know, everything is just a divide, because that's what they do. It's that old method of divide and conquer.
And what the leftists are doing is they're trying to tear down every institution we have that we can build community around that isn't the government. They want the only thing that ties us together is to be the government. And unfortunately, they're kind of winning that battle right now.
I am worried about certain rhetoric that comes out of our administration. And for example, like, and then I watch also the language being used, the severity of that language being increased over time. This whole agenda of vaccinated versus unvaccinated is starting to really manifest as like two separate people. And I mean, my mind is like, wow, this is crazy, because you don't think it's that big of a deal. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. But then let's just say we stay on this trajectory where the unvaccinated are actually causing deaths. You don't think that the hate can grow that fast. But if our government keeps pumping that message, and we're just a few months into this administration, in a few years, I mean, who's to say unvaccinated should not be put into some kind of camp?
They're trying to change this country because they will benefit from us not being who we really are.
You think I'm joking, but I'm gonna knock on this wood. I know this is solid oak. But anyway, but that is exactly how it happens.
Yeah.
You'll be sitting there enjoying life with your neighbor who's vaccinated and you're unvaccinated. The next day, their neighbor will turn you in and you're their enemy. And they're looking at you different. That's exactly what happened in my country. I kid you not.
Yeah.
The next day, my neighbor that I was friends with since my birth and his birth, his parents had packed up. They were full Serbians and they left. They wanted nothing to do with us. They didn't want to say goodbye. We need to wake up and smell the roses. I'm telling people, I mean, I tell people this all the time, everywhere, because you can call me crazy, I am not going to get caught with my pants down again. I'm not,
Yeah.
but you might. And you may not think that's going to happen, but let me tell you, practice and experience goes a long way. But what is happening in this country is a deliberate attempt to divide its people. And next, it's going to be conquered. Because, I mean, it's pretty scary, some of the stuff that our government is saying just out loud, out there, putting it out there. No big deal. So we need to start listening, because that's where we failed. Our government was telling us stuff and we were like, oh, you're not going to do that.
Right,
That's
right.
crazy. You would never do that. We literally sat around smoking and drinking. I wasn't. I was only 7 years old, but everybody around me was. And they were like, oh, our government would never do that. And poof, I know, like, I mean, just like this podcast, I was like, either God like really wants me to like help people with my message, or I'm gonna end up in a gulag somewhere, you know, with a
Well,
number.
I'll be in the cell right next to you.
I think like this is what I've also love about America, because yes, we may show the world a certain side of ourselves, but we are so diverse here, and there's so many parts to America that you can literally take your whole life, getting to know everything and everyone and different walks of life. And there's so many more Americans that live a normal life completely. They just do not even care. I mean, my American dreams already happened. The fact that I just wanted to be here. So like, I'm already starting off like living in a dream, because my dream was just to come here, because I knew coming here would make everything else happen, which it has. There is no such thing as Bosnian dream or Yugoslavian dream or English dream or French dream. America, you know, it may just be 1 in a million, but the fact that it can happen to 1 in a million, you don't have to come from, you know, generations of money. You can make something of yourself. For example, we love watching American Westerns because they're inspiring. We love watching American movies because they're inspiring. That's what America is. It used to serve as inspiration to the rest of the world, and we've become like the Debbie Downer. And like Trump was trying to revive that. Trump was like, I don't like this. The rest of the world doesn't like this. That's not our image. Like, guys, come on. And I don't like kissing anybody's butt. I don't think we as a country should kiss anybody's butt. They should be kissing our butt all day, every day. You can sit there and say, oh, stupid American. No, no, no. Stupid rest of you. But I am so tired of America being painted as some kind of global villain. Perhaps we do make mistakes, but show me one country that doesn't. Show me a country that doesn't.
Thank you so much for coming on. This has been a great conversation.
Thank you, Joe.
I love your perspective, your experience. It's really interesting to hear from someone who's actually seen this stuff firsthand, as opposed to just reading about it on Wikipedia, right? So